Graham Matthews here with Bleacher Report ahead of the upcoming release of Becky Lynch's new book, The Man Not Your Average Girl. We got two averages in there. It's available this coming Tuesday, March 26th. Pre-order right now on Amazon. Audiobook also going to be available starting next week. Becky, thanks for taking the time ahead of WrestleMania. I know your schedule's really busy right now.
Oh, my pleasure.
I know you're going to be coming to Madison, Connecticut, actually, in about a week. That's one of your stops. So I live like literally 20 minutes out from there. So I'm looking forward to being at the book signing next week because you're going to Boston, New York City. I saw CT on there. I'm like, first of all, that's random. That sort of stuff never really happens in Connecticut, but it's literally within like 20 minutes. So I think you're going to enjoy the area when you're here next weekend.
Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah, no, I don't make the schedule,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm like happy to go out. I mean, I'll go anywhere, you know. Yeah, and I love going to different towns. And Connecticut's always so quaint,
It is.
so quaint.
It's
Just lovely
quaint. It's
little
quiet.
coffee shops and
Yeah.
everything is, yeah, beautiful.
So that's what it is actually. The place where you're doing the signing is it's a coffee shop. They have like food in there and stuff, so it's going to be right up your alley, I think.
Great. Come see me. Let's eat some sandwiches,
I'm
drink
looking
some
forward to it.
coffee. I love it. This is everything that I love.
It's perfect timing coming right into WrestleMania. Obviously, the book is out right beforehand, so perfect timing on the release. But listen, you're the number one contender for the Women's World Championship right now. You're an author, but you're also now an American citizen. Congrats on that. How did that happen?
Thank you very much. Well, I went for a test and then I passed the test and then that's it. But you have to have a green card for a certain amount of time before you
Hmm.
can go for your citizenship. So I reached a certain amount of time and I was like, let's go.
Did that just coincide with your recent appearance at the White House on St. Patrick's Day, or no?
Pure coincidence, pure
Wow.
coincidence. Yeah. So because I went to the White House on the 17th, and then the very next day I had my citizenship test. I had to actually leave early so that I could go catch a flight to go do my citizenship test.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. Was the test
Yeah.
as hard as you expected it to be?
It's so absurdly easy.
Really?
Well, look, I mean, I'm a history buff, right? But there's also like an app you can get, and it tells you like 100 questions that they may ask, and you just learn those questions.
There you
You
go.
go in
Listen,
and answer them. Like I felt bad. There was a poor lad beside me, and he just didn't speak English, and I think that was the thing that tripped him up more than anything, because the poor guy kept asking him if he swore to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth, and the guy kept saying no. I was like, oh, just didn't understand. God bless him. So anyway, I didn't have that problem, thankfully.
well, that's good. That's good. But
Yeah.
listen, it's been a very busy time for you, obviously, with Mania coming up, doing the citizenship test as you mentioned on Monday, but writing the book as well. So I saw a clip on Twitter recently where you said, I think it was during an up, up, down, down stream. I think you mentioned that during your recent run in NXT, you rewrote the whole book. Like you rewrote the book. How did you do that?
I don't know. By typing very fast. I just didn't like how it was playing out. I felt like I was like, where's the through line? What's the story? What fits? What doesn't fit? And how do I like craft this so that you want to keep turning the page? And so I had done a writing course, and I don't know about you, but like I'm one of those people that can learn something and then it just doesn't click until a little while later. You're like, oh,
Hmm.
oh, yeah, and I think that was kind of what happened with me, where it just kind of clicked, and I was like, oh, now I understand how to write a book in a way that is engaging and will have people turning the page, because I liked what I'd written and I thought like it was well written, but maybe the things didn't fit in, and you have to then figure out what stories stay and what go. and
Yeah.
and so I actually ended up like chopping out a bunch of stories, but elongating and setting the scene and the tone more for the ones that I had in there.
So does that mean like this stuff is on the table for a potential sequel of all the stuff you didn't put in the original book or no?
100%, one
Oh,
hundred
okay, great.
percent. But that was the hard thing. That I mean, that's the hard thing about wrestling, is that it keeps going.
Yeah.
Like, so I haven't retired. So I was like writing while life was continuing, and I had to figure out an end point for this book. I was like, okay, no, it needs to end at some stage because I can't just keep writing until the deadline about
Hmm.
like the things that are happening. So I picked an end, and I kind of ended it where I came back at SummerSlam in uh, in 2021. But then I kind of surmised that the following year, which ended up being my favorite year in wrestling. And a lot of dramatic stuff happened in that year too. So there could be a sequel.
That's a pretty good place to end, too. I mean, coming back from your pregnancy, winning the championship at SummerSlam, like you said, the heel turn that followed in the year, the subsequent year from there, the stuff with Bianca, which was just incredible. And that's been kind of the thing that people latched onto in the past week and kind of getting hyped about the book and people reading certain stories and stuff you've never shared before, including that little story about Bianca, about how you went up to her following the match. She was crying and you told her, listen, I'll do right by you beyond this, which is crazy to hear in retrospect. I mean, I have no doubt that was the case even at the time, but I mean, you did at WrestleMania. You ended up putting her over in a pretty big way. So just kind of talk about that. I mean, as far as some of the stories that people read in this book, stuff that people have not heard before now, including that, like the Shayna thing too, kind of similar story again, right before you got pregnant. You wanted to lose to a WrestleMania and obviously ended up retaining the championship. But little stuff like that will make this a can't miss book for wrestling fans and just people in general.
Yeah, so like I've not really looked at like wrestling in terms of wins and losses,
Mhm.
and more in terms of stories. And I think that's always kind of been beneficial to me, but it's also like with Shayna specifically, we had gone through great lengths to make sure she looked like a star, like that she went through everybody in that elimination chamber quite harshly. And it was like, well, if we're going to do that, well, then we might as well pull the trigger, and we didn't. And I I thought that was a bit of a miscalculation, but people disagreed with me, and I suppose it's up to you to decide. But sometimes I think like if we're gonna go there with the story, let's just go there with the story. And with Bianca, that was the thing of I was the heel. I was going to take it from, and I know a lot of people were like, uh like they could have at least had a match, and we could have, but
Mhm.
I thought I do actually think it was better that I kind of caught her off guard, as opposed to having a 5-10 minute match and then beating her, and it just wouldn't have had the same effect at WrestleMania, because and even the way that we started the match at WrestleMania, with the same thing and her kicking out, like and Bianca's just such a pro. But like I remember thinking like, this girl has no reason to trust me. Like she doesn't know me, but she was so gracious, and she is the embodiment of a superstar. So I'm glad we had that match, and sometimes there were some curveballs thrown at us. I was told that we would never touch until Mania.
That's tough.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the match almost didn't happen, and we had to fight for that as well. But thankfully it did all happen, and we got to do right by that story.
I can't
And it's
imagine
one
what
of my
else.
favorite stories.
And no, it's just a fantastic story. I mean, you talk all about that in the book, not just that story, but like your entire career. I feel like, ironically, and not just the fact that you're married to Seth, but Seth also having a very logical character development, and you as well, especially in the last couple of years. Again, the organic rise, specifically from like 2018 onwards, and obviously all of this is covered in the book, but doing that, the heel stuff when you came back, and everything else since then, even your rise to the women's championship of what we're seeing right now. I just can't imagine what else that would have been with Bianca at that Mania 2 years ago if it wasn't that. I don't know. I just feel like, especially lately, we've had a more organic stream of storytelling, the rematch making sense, the Bianca stuff making sense. I don't know. I feel like, especially with you specifically, you've been in your element, not only in the ring, but storytelling wise. It's been spectacular to see over the past year or so.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. No, I do feel like maybe this is conceitedness, but hell, I'll be conceited. I'll be arrogant. I think I'm doing my best work. I think I have been ever since I came back, and from having having my child, and I know a lot of people didn't like my heel run, but screw them. I had a great time. I had a great time, and I felt like I got to tell some great stories. I felt like um, anybody that I worked with, hopefully for the most part, came out better um, than before. And so yeah, so I'm really proud of the work that I've been doing, like, and that's all it's about, really. Like, I think Rick Rubin always says um, that the audience comes last. You got to tell the stories and make
Mhm.
the art that you like. But in wrestling, it's different because the audience comes first, right? Like, everything that we're trying to elicit a response from the audience, and sometimes the stuff that you like and you think is good, maybe the audience doesn't feel that. But I think we're at the point where it's a little bit symbiotic again.
I think so. I mean, it's pretty organic, the stuff that we're seeing. I mean, just from a fan standpoint. I mean, I think just watching weekly, it's pretty clear that what we're seeing now is a lot more organic and what people want to see. Obviously, changing directions. We saw that recently with Cody. We saw that with you 5 years ago, and the rise of the man to WrestleMania and stuff like that. I mean, just talk about, obviously, talk a lot in the book about the rise to that WrestleMania 5 years ago, being there myself, an amazing moment when you won the championship, and just where you are now. You once again find yourself in that contender spot, but obviously, you're a mother now. A lot has changed in your career, a lot more accomplished even than you were 5 years ago. And you were one of the top talents even then as well. Just talk about where you are, not just mentally, but like just where you are in the headspace, the mindset going into Mania this year, now an author as well compared to 5 years ago.
Well, the mindset is that I feel like I'm better than I've ever been. I feel like I am really at my peak and in my prime. And it's funny because I've always thrived by being underestimated. Like, that's when I've always done my best work, is when I have that little bit of a chip on my shoulder, when people doubt me. And like, Rhea's been, on a hell of a hot run for the last little while, but I've been the one doing all the hard work in the background, and raising everybody's game. And I said it in a promo, and it's true to life, is that when people believe in me, I'm good, but when people doubt me, I'm great, because that there's something about that chip, and as much as I doubt myself, like, I can doubt myself, but you can't doubt me. It raises something in me, a fury and a fire, and pushes me like nothing else. And I feel that going into this match,
No, I think it's
which
definitely
is
Evan.
where I'm most comfortable.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that line that you just said now and that you said in the promo a couple weeks ago, where you said, you doubt me, I'm great. I'm good, but I'm great once you doubt me, was just such a great line. Like, I don't know. And I feel like it comes across the average viewer. And that's what I love about having the book right here in front of me as well. The early copy, not even
Oh, you got the real early
yeah,
copy.
the real early copy. Exactly. I'll be bringing this to the signing next week. But you just talk about as far as what we're seeing on TV right now and being doubted over the course of your career, it's just that's what made you such a perennial fan favorite over the course of your career. And what we're seeing now right now, like I said, just feeling that much more organic compared to, 5 years ago when stuff might have been force fed and at different points in your career and stuff like that. But going back to the book, as far as like sharing stories and stuff like that, I've never written an autobiography myself. So I'm just curious about the process. When it comes to sharing stories, like what is it like having to get like the permission of the people involved? Or like where do you draw the line with what you want to share, what you don't want to share? Obviously, certain pictures went viral with what you put in the book. Well, people can see that. I won't elaborate more. You can see it in the book when you get a copy. But just talk about that a little bit as far as what goes into it and what you feel like you should and shouldn't share.
Well, I never asked anybody permission
Interesting.
because, yeah, uh, maybe I should have, but I also just go, if you ask permission, no, why would I shouldn't have to ask permission, I don't think, because it's my story,
Yep.
right? Like, it's my story, it's my perspective. And I put a disclaimer in the beginning that all of this is from memory. It is my perspective. I try to be self-aware, so I try to know when I'm the asshole, but understand that it is also my perspective, and I am biased towards myself.
Sure.
So hopefully you'll get to decide if I'm self-aware enough or not. And so I think once you start asking permission, then you're kind of clouded by the moral police in
Hmm.
some regard. Like somebody's voice is over your shoulder, and then you can't get to really write your story in the way that you want to, because then you're taking everybody else into account. And I did a writing course with Neil Strauss, and he said to me, that it's never the big things that you think is going to offend people. It's something small. It's always going to be something that you've never accounted for, that people are going to go, well, what? I don't sound like that, or whatever it is. And so we'll see what people get offended by. I'm sure there'll be a little bit, but I try to be fair to people. Like, I try to be very aware that this is my book and people don't get to defend themselves in my book. So how can I defend them too, while giving my side of the story and my perspective? And so and so I think what was your question was, how did I decide what goes in and what stays out?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's this story, I think, is more than just a story about wrestling. It's a
Hmm.
story about dreaming. It is a story about overcoming the odds. Uh, it is a story about bringing a dream to fruition, things that you didn't think were possible, things that other people didn't think were possible. It's overcoming the doubts in your head and overcoming um, the obstacles and the stuff that people say to you, and how do you take that and use it as fuel and not let it ruin you. So it's more of a story of like almost a coming of age story, like you're seeing this girl grow up, trying to navigate the society pressures of being a woman, what's expected in wrestling, and then arriving at a place that she only dreamed about, having absolutely no right to be there, being average as all hell, not having a clue how to figure it out, and then figuring it out, you know? And so and so that was the story. And so then any stories that didn't support that story, then just had to, they may have been interesting, they may have been good, but if they weren't in line with the story of the book, I have to get them out.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, like you said, anything that wasn't included in this one that you may not have felt that it was fitting for this one, potential sequel. I mean, maybe the movie at some point. I mean, I think people would be clamoring for
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
It's got to be coming at some point. But obviously, the book is available next week, March 26th, from when we speak right now, on Tuesday. Pre-order on Amazon right now. The audiobook also available soon after as well. The Man, Not Your Average Girl. Becky, thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it. If I had to recommend a place in the area, if you're around in Connecticut long enough to check out, it's called Brother Mike's in Madison. Great sandwich shop. Grand Pizza as well is also fantastic. So if you got time and you're a pizza person, then definitely check it out.
I am a pizza person. Hell yeah.
I appreciate the time, Becky. Thanks so much for taking
Who's
the time. This has
not a
been
pizza?
awesome.
Yeah, but a question, who's not a pizza person? Are there people that are like, I'm not into pizza?
That's good. That's yes, correct. But I know with Mania
But
right around the corner, everyone might be
uh,
like really cracking down as far as like, I don't know. I mean, maybe you just don't give a shit. I mean, I don't blame you, but
I'm bulking. I'm
there
trying to
you go.
bulk. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like I'm trying to bulk for the life of me, since I've had this child. I cannot put weight on, and this is just such a like an arbitrary complaint. But I'm just running after her the whole time, and yeah. So I've been really trying to bulk. You know,
I feel
I
like you could
take
do a
I
whole other
take I take I take too many bumps to be this skinny.
I feel like you could do a whole other book on motherhood alone and the lessons you've learned, since becoming a mom, I'm sure, as far as like stuff like that, like little, tidbits. I mean, I think a lot of people would find that fascinating.
Yeah, maybe that'll be the sequel.
Well, we look forward to it. Well, thanks again for the time, Becky. I appreciate it. I'll catch you down the road. I'm sure I'll catch you next Saturday at the book signing in Madison.
Hell yeah.